Good afternoon, Newton Baseball Club coaches. Today in our short session, I'm going to talk to you about some of the charts and some of the statistics that we use to evaluate our performance. The first one that I'm going to show you is one that I think is really important to evaluating our team performance. This is called our Team Process Index. And in our Team Process Index, we are evaluating a thing called freebies and base two, and we're combining that with our total quality at bats. And I'll explain to you what each one of these things are. So when we look at our freebies, one thing that we talk about is we want to win the freebie war in our game. And so we chart or we tally the errors that we commit and the errors that our opponent commits, and then we come up with the differential. So for example, if we commit one error and our opponent commits two errors, well, then we have a +1 differential. Then we look at our walks and hit by pitches, meaning how many times we walk and how many times we get hit versus how many times they walk and they get hit. So if we have 5 free passes and they have 3 free passes, then we are at a +2. So I'll go ahead and set this up. So we're at 1, they're at 2. So that means we're going to be at a that's equal, at a +1. And let's say we have 5 and our opponent has 3. That means that we are at a +2. I don't know why that didn't do that. Ks, let's say we strike out 6 times and they strike out 2 times. Well, then that is going to be a -4. Stolen bases, let's say we steal 6 bases, they steal 0 bases. Well, then that is going to be a +6. So if we do some simple math here, all right, so we've got 1 + 2, that's 3, -4, we're at -1 + 6. We should be at a whoa, that was bad, at a +5. Okay, so then we move into our base 2. So right now we had 5 free bases. Right now we had 5 free bases that our opponents didn't have, or have the advantage of 5 free bases. So then let's say that we do have a big inning. What is a big inning? It means you score 3+ runs in one particular inning. Now you only chart this once. So we have a big inning. So let's say we can connect that one. Let's say that they score, and then the very next half inning we score also. So we answer back. Let's say that we score first, and let's say that we score with 2 outs. And extend the lead is like when you get a lead, the very next inning you come out and you score again to extend the lead. So based off of this base 2, our total points, we achieved 4 base 2s at a percentage of 10 times each. So that means we have a total points of 40 points. And then we take our total QABs, and let's say that we have 15 QABs and we had 30 at-bats, which probably we're not going to be there. We're probably going to be more like 20. So then our percentage is going to be about 66%. Okay, so the total points is going to be 6.6. Oh, sorry. Let me get that here. So our QAB percentage is 66. You multiply that by 10, and you're going to have 6.6. So if we add up all these points here, so we have 5 plus 40 plus 6.6. So we have 45. So we're looking at about 51.6 points. Now, our goal in any game is to have 48 points. If we have 48 points, what we've been able to figure out statistically is that we will win 88% of the time. So if we hit 48 points, we have a chance to win the ball game 88% of the time. And what I love about this chart is that it allows us to evaluate our performance using statistical data, so that when I go and talk to my players, I can talk to them about, well, this is where we went wrong. Like, we didn't win the freebie war. We didn't win the freebie war because we had more errors than our opponent, or we walked more people than our opponent, or we struck out more than our opponent, or we didn't take enough we didn't steal enough bases. And what it helps me do is that when I go to talk to my players, I'm talking to them about data. I'm talking to them about concrete things, instead of talking to them about how I feel. And I cannot stand talking to them about how I feel. Like, well, I feel we just didn't compete very well today. Okay, how do I know? How can I look into them? I mean, I can use body language, but it's too subjective. And when I evaluate performances, I want to be as objective as I possibly can be. The next thing that we're going to look at, which I think is also really important to what we do, this is called our pitcher productivity chart. And we're basically looking at 4 different areas for our pitchers to try to improve on, or at least try to measure their performance. One of them is first pitch strike. So we'll do tally marks in here, and they'll do all this on a chart. They'll do this handwritten. This isn't going to be on a computer. If you want to figure out how to digitize it and do it on a computer or on an iPad or a cell phone, you can do that if you want. But we'd like to do this stuff during the game. A stat program that we use is called Game Changer, which I'm sure many of you have heard of this. I mean, you can do all this stuff on Game Changer, but I want the data. Like, I want it at my fingertips during the game. Like, I want to be able to look at what we're doing. I don't want to be able to deal with it, or I want to be able to talk about it with the players, like, during the game. So if a pitcher comes over, a lot of times our pitchers are going to come over and they're going to look at their performance. Like, they want a percentage inning by inning. So they'll come over and they'll look at whoever's charting that, which a lot of times we make pitchers chart it. And they're going to evaluate their performance. So batters faced, for every batter they faced, they evaluate, do they get a first pitch strike or do they not get a first pitch strike? So you keep track of the batters, and then you only chart the first pitch strikes. And then you take the total and the total number of first pitch strikes, divide them to figure out a percentage. Our goal, like we said, is 60%. We do the same for total strike percentage, and our goal is 60%. Quality innings. This is more of a team statistic. So our goal is to have 50% quality innings. Well, what is a quality inning? A quality inning is going to be an inning that is either 1-2-3, a 1-2-3 inning, or a pitcher gets out of the inning in 13 pitches. If a pitcher is getting if their pitcher's focus is to get a quality inning, then they're going to be able to go much further into the game, like the 5th, the 6th, the 7th inning, if they're doubling up on quality innings. Well, how do they have a quality inning? Well, number 1, they have to have a first pitch strike. Number 2, they have to have a strike percentage that's greater than 60%. And then the third statistic that we look at, which is one that I feel like is really, really important to our pitchers, is called an A3P, which is after 3 pitches, meaning that a pitcher is getting 2 strikes on a batter within the first 3 pitches, or the batter is putting the ball in play within the first 3 pitches. Now, this does a couple of things. This encourages a pitcher, the A3P encourages a pitcher to not be afraid of contact. As a matter of fact, it encourages them to pitch to contact. But it also puts the added pressure on our defense that we have to make plays. So based off of this chart right here, obviously our pitchers and what they do statistically, they're going to try and throw strikes in their bullpen, and they're going to try and throw first pitch strikes, and they're going to try and get a strike percentage above 60%. And they're going to try and focus on an A3P. But another thing this allows us to do is this allows us to hold our defense accountable and say, look, like, these pitchers, they're meeting their statistics, they're meeting their goals. What are we not doing defensively to help our pitching staff out? Transitioning, moving on to the next one. This is called our QAB chart, or single game quality at bat chart. So you'll put in your player's name here, and you'll put them in all the way down. And then what we do is we look at first at bat, and we either put an X or we put a Q. So if the player, if batter 1 has a quality at bat, which is push count beyond 7 pitches, hit the ball hard, move runners, score runners, or walk, it's pretty basic. If they do any one of these 5 things, then they're going to put a Q in there. If they don't, then they're going to put an X in there. And what happens is, as we go through this, if they need to add, if it's a situational contact, they'll tally a situational contact, or if they get on base, they're going to tally total number of bases. So let's say that this first batter hits a double with the runner on second base. So they hit the double, they get a Q. Actually, let's say second. Let's say this guy gets hits a double, nobody's on, so he gets 2 total bases. So they get the Q, they get 2 total bases. And right now they're 1 for 1 on their Q average. Well, let's say the second hitter hits another double. They get a Q. They also get 1 situational contact, and they get 2 bases, 2 total bases. So in this particular case, what we're doing is we're evaluating productivity. So both of these players right now are extremely productive based off of their total bases, based off of their situational contact, and based off of their Q average. And then what we'll do is we'll go all the way down, and we'll look at our total situational contacts. And then we'll look at our total team total bases. So, I mean, what the QAB is doing is a lot of times we focus on batting average and we say, well, what's the batting average? What's the batting average? Well, batting average is something that is results focused, that really doesn't yield a tremendous amount of success. If we just focus on batting average, don't get me wrong, batting average is very important. But at least this way, players have an ability to be successful in multiple different ways, as aside from being successful in one particular statistic, which is QAB. Statistics that we look at is on base percentage and slugging percentage. These are 2 statistics that I think are extremely important, because if your on base percentage is good, that means you have base runners. In high school baseball, you need to have base runners. When you look at slugging percentage, this is the total number of bases per contact. The higher your slugging percentage, the more productive or explosive you are going to be as an offensive player. So if you take on base percentage and you take slugging percentage and you put those 2 things together, you get what is called an OPS, which is on base plus slugging percentage. And that particular player is really, really productive. They get on base all the time and they slug all the time. And if you have a pretty good OPS, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a great batting average to be a highly productive high school player. So we want our players to think, when I'm on deck, I should be thinking the situation. How can I hit to the situation? And this is how we train. This is where those situational ABs, this is where that drill work comes in. And then when we look at hit, if we're going to hit the ball, we want to hit the ball hard. And so we want to evaluate total bases. And plus, when we get total bases, this is going to encourage players to run the bases harder, be more aggressive. We want aggression. So these are 3 charts that we use to evaluate our performance. And like I said, it gives us concrete, objective data, for the most part, objective data that we can talk to our players about. Another thing that we do is, I talked to you already about quality practice. Well, our quality practice is predicated off of trying to achieve the goals of these particular charts. So what are our pitchers going to focus on? Our pitchers are going to focus on first pitch strikes in their bullpen sessions. Our pitchers are going to focus on A3Ps in their bullpen sessions. And we're going to structure those bullpen sessions so that we can encourage a high percentage of first pitch strikes. The freebie war. Well, we're going to run the bases, and we're going to work on our hitting approach in practice so that we can encourage more free passes, so that we can encourage more stolen bases. I mean, they always say what you measure is what you treasure. So it's very clear based off of these charts what we are measuring. So as a result of what we're measuring, then the players are going to know exactly why we're practicing the way we're practicing and why this is important. So I look forward to talking to you guys more about these charts. I look forward to talking to you about how we structure our practices to better support the goals that we hope to achieve with these charts. But the key is that, yet again, this is transforming the mind to not think about just winning and losing, but think about the game within the game and the small pieces of how the game functions, so that you can create a greater opportunity for you to be successful. And what we found with our pitchers is that when our pitchers are hitting their goals and we're having quality innings, then typically means that defensively we're playing really well. Our team process index, if we're getting 48 points, if we're scoring 48 points, then typically we're going to end up on top on the scoreboard. But as we all know, in terms of mental toughness, You can play great and lose, and you can play great and win, and you can play poorly and win, and play poorly and lose. I mean, there is times that we score a lot of points and we lose the game. And the problem with that is that the other team also played really, really good. So there is something that happened in that game that put us in a position to not win. Somewhere along the lines, a play wasn't made that needed to be made. And probably the reason that play wasn't being made is because in that instance, we did not see green lights where our opponent was seeing green lights. So were we in the present moment? So we have to evaluate, were we in the present moment? Was our routines, were they good? And it just all ties together. It's all one formula, and there is a tremendous amount of interdependence among these different things between what we teach mental toughness wise and how we practice, but also how we measure the different things in what we do. And it sounds pretty complicated, and it does take some time to put all this stuff together, but once you understand it and once you get used to it, then it becomes second nature. And then now kids are going to start thinking the game. So anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit more about this stuff. You guys have a great day. Let me stop recording. Have a great day. And again, I look forward to seeing you.